Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another exciting edition of Solar Now and the Future with its economic impact on Black America. And I'm your host, Ronald Bethea, and you know if you join us on a regular basis, the slogan for this show, if there's power in numbers, then the Positive Change Purchasing Cooperative, LLC, captures that power for your financial benefit. The Positive Change Purchasing Cooperative, LLC, serves as an economic blueprint for renewable energy companies, both large and small, along with increasing market share for African and African-American renewable energy companies to address the high energy costs at our historically Black colleges and universities, to utilize Black-owned farmlands and HBCU campuses to develop capacity and initiatives for renewable energy projects to bring down the underemployment of young African and African-American men and women locally, nationally, and throughout the diaspora. Also to educate the African and African-American community locally, nationally, and throughout the diaspora about the economic impacts of climate change and the need for environmental education through Black Talk radio programs such as Solar Now and the Future with its economic impact on Black America. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very, very pleased to be able to bring to our listening audience the first program where we are streaming this program live over YouTube, and we are, in fact, working and been working tirelessly to, in fact, bring to you this new digital TV radio podcast network. And you can reach us by going to our website at positivechangepc.com, and you'll be able to watch the live stream. We have some guests that will be coming on in our second hour. This is a special 2-hour show today. So we do have several scheduled guests, but they'll be coming on at the top of the second hour. In the first portion of the show today, we're going to take an opportunity to look at a number of issues surrounding the solar industry. And we've chosen to look at the issue in the solar industry. There was an excellent article done by Mr. Jeff Brady. It was published back on August 14th of 2014 of 2024, I apologize, and it's entitled the solar industry for a problem, and they're working to correct their image. This article was done, Mr. Brady is with, of course, NPR News. So we are going to look at this specific article, Philadelphia. The solar power industry is booming, and the growth helps the world meet its climate goals by replacing fossil fuels, but an emerging problem in the U.S. solar business that installs panels or homes risks slowing the effort to cut the country's emissions. Customer complaints against the country's residential rooftop solar industry have increased dramatically in the recent years. And there has been a lot of shady business practices in residential solar. And I think it is hurting the market, says Mishandling Gold Market, who founded the company Solar States in 2006. He says the solar industry started with hippos who looked at the idea of getting electricity from the sun and had very poor intentions and wanted to make clean electricity available to everyone. But now Gold Markle says larger companies with more of the profit motive have introduced questionable sales financing practices that are hurting the industry's reputation. Even pro-sectors who are investing companies across the country say good idea has been corrupted. We think having rooftop solar is good for the environment and does save people money. We want people to receive through their rooftop PV systems, says Adams Well, a lawyer for the Minnesota Attorney General's office, who is pursuing a case against solar financing companies. Beyond the industry's reputation, real people, many of them already are financially vulnerable and have been hurt. Now, this is what's going on, ladies and gentlemen, in the industry. And we cannot deny that these practices are taking place as we look at the solar industry. This is a specific gentleman who was interviewed out of Philly, 91-year-old Emmanuel mentored a Northeast Philadelphia, has a Northeast Philadelphia house, has a tidy front yard where the Jamaican immigrants proudly flies an American flag on his roof where he has his solar panels. They've been generating electricity, but also become a source of frustration for the retired mechanic. The gentleman was a mechanic. And he has had issues with the problem of getting the value from his system. And many of us who follow this industry, we know that this has been a national problem. And we're going to delve into that a little further in this particular show today, because we'll be looking at an email letter which I received from Mr. Michael Murray, who's the CEO of Mission Data, who talked about this issue and how it is impacting the industry. As I return back to the article, this show is being done, and I am working tirelessly here trying to control all of these different segments of these windows in order for us to be able to see what we need to see, to do what we need to do here on today's show. But we're going to get this thing done, ladies and gentlemen. I promise you that here on the platform of Solar Now and the Future with its economic impact on Black America. I'm just trying to get back over here so I can get back to the article that looks at the issue of the gentleman out of Philadelphia, the gentleman who has the system on his roof. Now, in December of 2022, Mentos says a door-to-door salesman approached him about a government program to help senior citizens save on their electricity bills. Well, everyone wants cheaper electricity bills, right? Mentos said the program is going to cost about $20,000 out of your pocket, but don't worry about it. You're only going to have to pay about $100 a month. Mentos says the salesman told him the cost would be over 20 years, and Mentos says that the salesman told him that would be cut his electricity bills in half. Now, these are the type of situations and the reason why we're dedicating this show today, because I want to make sure that I'm very clear what's going on in the marketplace as it relates to the African and African American community around the solar industry, because we've dedicated quite a bit of our time in advocating for renewable energy. I serve presently as president of the National Association of Blacks in Solar, and we know that these issues exist, and they're not going to go anyplace on their own. We have to keep working to improve the situation for our communities around these issues by educating our homeowners and our consumers in the marketplace, because these sales representatives are out here in the marketplace. Make no mistake about that. On yesterday, I happened to be going to my brother-in-law's home for a short minute, and there was a young man dressed very, very appropriately with a suit on, and he stopped me as I was coming off my brother-in-law's front porch and asked me, did I know who lived at the residence? I said, yeah, my brother-in-law lives there. Oh, well, I talked to him about putting a PV system on his roof. My brother-in-law resides in the Riggs Park area here in Washington, D.C., and unless you've been on a rock, if you've been following us, you know that Washington, D.C. has the most valuable energy credits in the world. They're trading for $410 a kilowatt hour as we speak, and we're going to delve into what's going on in the nation's capital, and we have some guests that we'll be bringing on. But I'm trying to set the table to let people know this is not a Washington, D.C. issue. This is a national issue as we begin to look at what is going on in the industry. Now, this gentleman here out of Philadelphia, he was told that was going to cost him no more than $100 a month. But as things worked out, he said that Go Markets, who founded the company in 2008, said that these are issues that are prevalent Now, this particular gentleman said, I will die before I can pay this off. The 91-year-old Emmanuel Minto of Northeast Philadelphia's house. He talked about that as it relates to the program, which was going to cost about $20,000 out of pocket. Salesman told him, don't worry about it. But if you're really going to pay out $100 a month, won't pay out any more than $100 a month, the salesman told him the cost would be over 20 years, and Minto says the salesman told him it would cut his electricity bill in half. Well, that would be good, the gentleman went on to say. But there was no such government program, and the monthly payment ended up being 4 times what Minto said he was promised. I will die before I can pay this off, Minto said. Minto didn't have a computer or an email address, and says that the salesman created an email, and when he forged his signature onto the electronic contract, hit him, he sat down there and said Minto is referring to the salesman and pointing to the chair of his enclosed front porch and said, this is your email address and this is your password. Minto said he never saw or signed an electronic contract. According to the lawsuit filed against the company involved in the contract, was discovered later that Minto's granddaughter got access to the email. His attorney says the only message in the inbox were from the solar installer and the financing company. I wish I could say it was surprising, said Andy Milzer, the attorney who specializes in solar fraud and who is representing Minto. We've seen so much of this. The attorney said, as part of the loan, a lien was placed on Mr. Minto to pay off his home to secure is nearly a $50,000 loan. Part of the scam here, especially when it comes to elderly customers, is to strip equity from their homes to steal their nest egg from them. So this is serious, ladies and gentlemen. The salesman no longer works for solar sales company Gray Square solar owner Tim Coons disputes many of the facts in the case, though he confirms that the salesman created the email address. He says there are safeguards in place to prevent Mr. Minto's claims, what he claims to prevent what Mr. Minto claimed what happened, and it accused the elder of Mr. Minto of being scammed. I feel like I'm the one being defrauded. I feel like this is a hustle to try to get money, Coons told the NPR reporter, Brady. He says the case is like you bankrupt his company. Mill, the attorney, said Gray Square Solar didn't even appear in court to defend itself. Action speaks louder than words. The financing company involved in Mr. Minto's case, Solar Masonic, said in an email, we dispute the allegations and cannot comment on pending litigation. The attorney for Mr. Minto said in the case fraud, he's generally tried to get the mandatory arbitration clause void and move the case to the regular court before the jury, but the process could last years, and given Mr. Minto's age, he's pursuing arbitration to get it resolved as quickly as possible. The attorney for Mr. Minto says he's handled more than 100 cases like this as part of of a loose network of attorneys around the country who specialize in fraudulent solar sales as complaints against the solar companies mount. State attorney generals also are involved. Now, this is a long, detailed office that then installs. The number of complaints and low reviews for residential solar companies outpaced the industry's growth. Complaints to the Federal Trade Commission report fraud ftc.gov. Now, these are all taking place simultaneously as we speak, ladies and gentlemen. This is not something that's operating in a vacuum, and if you stay with this show, you're going to find out to be the truth and nothing but the truth as we look at what's going on in this industry right now. As we begin to look at the issues surrounding the industry, we are going to continue with this. We're going to take a slight pause for the cause here so we can sort of straighten up some homework and look at some additional information as we look at this industry, as we're talking about the industry raising residential solar business standards here on the platform of Solar Now and the Future with its economic impact on Black America. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to, as we said, take a slight pause for the cause here on Solar Now and the Future with its economic impact on Black America. Ladies and gentlemen, that song is by Mr. Ebert Allen, and it's called Desert Drive. That's our new introductory song to our show here on the platform of Solar Now and the Future with its economic impact on Black America, as we are trying to keep working here to bring you the show on our live stream here on Solar Now and the Future with its economic impact on Black America, as we begin to look at other issues that substantiate talking about here on this platform. Now, for leading America's member steel customers toward clean energy credits in Colorado, this is a basic firm that has been working to raise the residential business standards. Gold Market is among a few installers around the country involved in corporate called American Solar. It pools resources and independent solar companies so they can compete against the large ones. It also requires members to follow certain business practices. We're treating our employees fairly. We're looking at the supply chain, saying there are unethical things happening at the manufacturing side of things, and you're going to try to stay away from the forced labor solar panels that are sorting things, the go-market spokesman said. Now, as we begin to look at the solar industry and look at the standards, we're going to switch gears and we're going to come close to home. I reside here in Tacoma Park, Maryland, right outside of the District of Columbia. And for years, I was a resident, almost 30, 40 years in the District of Columbia before moving to Prince George's County. And we reside right outside of the district in Tacoma Park. So we're going to look at additional information, taking a look at possible solar fraud taking place right here in our nation's capital. This is an article, an email, not an article, but an email that dates back that I received from Mr. Michael Murray back on February 27th of 2023. And for many of you who don't know who I am, I'm the founder and CEO of the Positive Change Purchasing Cooperative, LLC. And in our intro, I basically gave you an overview of what we do and what our goals and objectives are here. Now, I also serve as the sitting president of the National Association of Blacks in Solar since 2018. And I'm going to share with you information impacting D.C. residents that have installed PV systems on their roofs dating back to 2018. This is an email which I received from Michael Murray, founder and CEO of Mission Data, which tracks the data sharing issue nationally. And as I indicated, this particular article email dates back to February 27th of 2023 when he emailed me. Good afternoon, Ronald. Great chatting with you today. Here's the initial thoughts around the data issue with Pepco. I see the district in the district area. Pepco won't allow ratepayers to make use of their own energy uses, billing data, for example, to transmit information from organizations such as, it's now called Neighborhoods United, and then it was called DC Sun. This is Mrs. Anna Schoolman's group. It was founded here in Washington, D.C., and to their credit, they have done a yeoman's job advocating on behalf of homeowners and educating them or in the process of how to go solar, to form co-ops in their own communities, in their own blocks, and how you go about, in fact, selecting an installer and getting the most out of your investment and return on investment. And they do an excellent job. Now, when he looked at it, organizations and energy management services or whatever, this is the topic of our deactivated paper and some things that we experience, which is nationwide. Pepco is going to be installing new smart meters within 2 to 3 years, and they probably won't let you access the data via Wi-Fi either. even though the ratepayers are paying for the Wi-Fi capability. Now, that's very key, ladies and gentlemen. That's very, very important, and it's very, very key as we begin to talk about accessing the data via Wi-Fi, because when they install these systems, they give you an app when they put these PV systems. The installation, the solar company will provide most homeowners with an app, and through that Wi-Fi, but that Wi-Fi signal can be deactivated, and you're going to find out it has been deactivated in many cases. Pepco is going to be installing new smart meters. We know those smart meters came from your tax and my tax dollars. It was about $5 billion that came through appropriations through Congress, which they gave directly to the utility companies, rather than to install these new smart meters. And the process is known as net metering. Now, rather than putting those meters in the home at no cost to the homeowners so that they can go solar, they basically doubled the cost of the meter, and the residents had to pay the other half of the cost. So the utility company wasn't on the hook for any investment in that process. Now, Pepco has the accounting behind community solar credits, leading to complaints you mentioned. Once again, Pepco has information but refuses to share it. Specifically, community solar has an electric meter owned by a third party that reports the generation of RECs, which are known as energy credits, to DOEE, which is the Department of Energy and Environment here in Washington, D.C., and Pepco refuses to use this meter for their bill credits. Pepco installed its own generation meter and won't share the data. Apparently, there are discrepancies between the two meters to this Pepco Rube Goldberg billing system that you have, an untransparency mess, in my opinion, should be forensically audited by an independent accounting firm. Pepco can't generate accurate monthly bills for regular customers. Here's a friend of mine's account screenshot attached who hasn't gotten a Pepco bill in 12 months. No bill periods. He has solar on his house, and he lives in Northeast. Is Pepco not generating a bill because they want to pay him for his solar exports? Is Pepco acting nefariously, or are they just incompetent, or both? Now, this is the actual email I received. You're going to find out in our second hour, we're going to have some guests hopefully calling in, and I'm going to try to bring them up into the live Zoom to share their experience also. I mentioned Devin Hampton's, this is going into about a young man that went to Hampton who lives in the District of Columbia, but we're going to sort of go over that, pass over that. I'm not an expert in D.C. community solar and RECs policies. However, I do know whatever data Pepco can provide, but it isn't, and what the negative repercussions of Pepco's decisions will be. For example, it costs solar companies several $100s extra to install their own meters equipment, which is unnecessary and redundant to Co's meter. I and he was happy to share this information. These are his thoughts as he's looking at this issue as a national problem. Lo and behold, ladies and gentlemen, we have a headline. Pepco systematically misleading solar project, says D.C. Attorney General Racine, who is no longer the U.S. Attorney in the District of Columbia, but he brought this lawsuit during his tenure as the U.S. Attorney for the District of Columbia. This lawsuit was brought by the Office of the People's Counsel, DOEE, concerning community solar in the district. The problem with the suit, it left out the individual homeowners in this process. Pepco has committed a pattern of systematic violations in its handling of solar projects in D.C., potentially covering overcharging more than 6,000, I said 6,000 customers, according to the D.C. Attorney General and the Office of the People's Counsel. The two offices jointly filed a complaint today detailing allegations saying that the power company's actions are undermining progress towards District of Columbia's clean energy and climate goals. The complaint from developers, consumers, and the District of Columbia, the Department of Energy and Environment staff, illuminates that Pepco has repeatedly violated its legal requirements in its filing. Alleged violations have to do with community solar installations in the district, where residents who may not have rooftop to put on their own solar panels, who may not be able to make investments, can subscribe to solar projects. In return, subscribers are supposed to get credits on their Pepco bills, reducing the electricity card charges depending on how much power they share on the community solar that is given a billing period. Pepco's actions have resulted in higher monthly household energy bills that subscribers should be paying, and this is why the suit was filed. Of the 6,200 community solar subscribers in the city, 5,000 are enrolled for free through the Solar for All program. So that leaves about 1,200 people who were not a part of the D.C. Solar for All program. The District of Columbia Energy and Environment program is available to residents making it less than 80% of their area median income to cut subscribers' electricity bill for the next 15 years. Through the program, the Solar for All was developed in order to ensure that D.C. residents, specifically those who are low and moderate income, don't have the real estate for solar panels themselves, would be able to join efforts in the district that has been earmarked to ensure that it meets clean energy goals moving forward. Kathleen Capone, Deputy Attorney General, who leads the OAG's Public Advocacy Division. The complaint was filed with the D.C. Public Service Commission, which regulates the city utilities. According to the complaint, Pepco has booted its handling of community solar projects in numerous ways. The utility is under the Solar Energy Generation Community Solar Projects. This is a very, very, very lengthy article, ladies and gentlemen. So I've been reading from that article, and what is mind-boggling to me is that this particular program, if you read into it, you will find that some people who have homes have applied to this program, but the majority of these individuals live in apartment buildings. And the Solar for All pilot, which was established here by Mr. Ted Preview, who was the director of the DC Sustainable Utility, known as DCSCU, he's no longer there. He now serves on the Public Service Commission here in Washington, D.C. He founded the Solar for All program with Mr. Mark Davis of WDC Solar, one of the founding members of the National Association of Blacks in Solar, which I am the sitting president, along with Ms. Darrell Green, NFL Hall of Famer, who played here with the Washington, Berkeley, and Gold franchise, who was with a firm that started the actual Solar for All project here in Washington. Now, what I want to look at is how the law was originally constructed and why it on the D.C. residents in such a negative way. First, the Renewable Portfolio Standard legislation, which was signed into law by Mayor Bowser in fiscal year 2016, had a 50% renewable portfolio standard goal to move from fossil fuels to renewable energy sources and meet their goal to combat greenhouse emissions by year 2032. But in that law, it's supposed to help 100,000 low and moderate income residents reduce their energy bills by 50% by year 2032. That is how the law was constructed. But inside of that bill, that Mrs. Mary Shea, who served on the council at that time, had the subcommittee on utilities and energy under her auspices, they wrote into the law that Pepco has to purchase the energy credits from their customer base. At that time, Pepco had about 370,000 residential customers, including federal government, district government, and residential homes in the district. Now, we're looking at going back 2016 to 17. The population base in the District of Columbia has grown and it's shifted, as many African Americans have been forced out. But at the same time, when we begin to look at this energy issue, it cut across all income levels, ethnicity levels, and they didn't care you was polka dot. What color your skin color was didn't matter. The Solar for All program pilot was started. There were articles that came out that said Pepco had sent to some residents who reside in the Shaw community here in Northwest Washington, D.C., and near Howard University, here in our nation's capital, for those who I'm speaking to around the country, that the fee would be close to $10,000 for infrastructure, which had nothing to do with the cost of the PV system on the person's roof. This is what, if they wanted to access and put a PV system on their homes in the Shaw community near Howard University. There were actually articles done. I don't have those particular articles, but what is concerning to me is DCSCU, which was the contracting entity for the D.C. government. It sounds like a D.C. agency, but it is not. It's a private agency. But they were contracted by the Department of Energy and Environment to, in fact, monitor the installs of those solar installation companies that are vetted and approved and certified through the Department of Energy and Environment here in the District of Columbia, and they gave them a budget. Well, I've had the privilege of having Mr. Ted Trevue on this platform, and he's indicated that they didn't have a very much money when they started this program back in 2011. They had no money for rooftop repair and other issues because you can't put a PV system on a roof of a home if it's 50 to 100 years old. You got to replace the roof. Rotten wood, old wiring, old electrical breaker boxes in those homes. That's infrastructure. They did not have that funding when this program was initially launched. And it's been a learning process. We realized over the years for those entities involved in the industry. But when you're talking about rooftop solar, you're not talking about a great deal of profit that's involved in what they would call a 5 kW system, which is about 20 solar panels that is installed on one's roof. So it's not going to take that particular home completely off the grid. One of the things that was written into the law is that Pepco had to purchase those energy credits from their customer base. One thing that burns and has stayed in my memory as Mrs. Sandra Fry, who is the lead general counsel for the Office of the People's Counsel here in the District of Columbia, she stated in her testimony in 2018, because I testified on the same day, and advocated for federal funding in this to become a national program through Positive Change Purchasing Cooperative. Pepco can't buy what Pepco can get because you don't have enough systems in the district. We take in the federal government buildings, district government buildings, commercial buildings, and residential homes. Well, if there's a shortfall, Pepco had to pay a fine. In fiscal year 2017, after Biles signed the Renewable Portfolio Standard legislation in 2016, there was a $15 million shortfall. That legislation was crafted by Mrs. Mary Shea and the City Council, where Pepco had to write a check, which was $15 million for fiscal year 2017. But the devil is always in the details. Those fines for the shortfall could be passed back on to D.C. ratepayers over the course of the year in their bill, which amounts to being spread over those 370,000. But when you're talking about $50 to $100 on people who are seniors, fixed income, that's a deal breaker. This is what has happened in the District of Columbia. So as we look at this taking place, the Solar for All program on April 8th of 2024 the Department of Energy and Environment, DOEE, in the district, put out a press release stating that D.C. residents, that there would be no installs for fiscal year 2024 because of budgetary restraints. Now, 2018, the shortfall jumped up to almost $25 million. That is when the head of the Public Service Commission, Mrs. Betty Ann Kane, at that time, went through the roof. She came on this platform, Solar Now and the Future, with Mrs. Anna Schoolman, the founder of Neighborhoods United. Today, it was then called DC Sun, and they broke it down that the city council wouldn't go get another dime from the millions of dollars that they are collecting in fees, and they had at that time about $75 million sitting over there under the Public Service Commission in a bank account. The city council would petition the Public Service Commission with $35 million for one thing. They moved the money to the general fund, then it gets used for purposes that it was not legally originally collected for. It was supposed to help low and moderate income residents put PV systems on their roof. So this is the catch-2044 that D.C. residents find themselves in. Those fines are still accumulating. That is the situation in 2024. Fast forward. The D.C. government told D.C. residents after Mayor Bowser pulled the entire $20 million budget from D.C. SEU to pay the contractors to do the installs for fiscal year 2024, you will have to go on a waiting list to 2025 to be considered to get, if you are lucky, to get a PV system put on your roof. Moving forward. On April the 22nd of 2024, headlines. Biden-Harris administration announces the District of Columbia received more than $62,450,000. This is $62,450,000 to deliver residential solar for low energy costs and advancing energy justice across the district. This is the funding that came from the Greenhouse Gas Initiative, which came from the pilot that was started in D.C. in 2011, and it was funded by the Biden administration through the Inflation Reduction Act under the Greenhouse Gas Initiative under the EPA. They're receiving this money, but still no installs for 2024. So when we begin to look at this, ladies and gentlemen, we begin to say, we're looking at this, could there possibly be solar fraud going on here in our nation's capital? Because when I look at this scenario, it tells me a lot of things. Now, people aren't standing by and is taking this on the chin. You know, you have people out here fighting the fight. Now, I'm going to see, we're going to take a slight pause for the calls here, and I'm going to see if I can get several of my guests up on this show, because I know they were supposed to be coming in at a certain time, and I wanted to sort of set the stage for them without them having to sit through the first hour of this show while we were trying to get this show up and running today, because I've been trying to navigate through the process of the live stream as well as bring them to the into the show. Now, they have the Zoom links, and I'm trying to wait to see who will be signing in here on the platform of Solar Now and the Future with its economic impact on Black America. We are streaming live present time, and I'm trying to make sure that I'm want to be able to get my guests in if they're going to call in. And if not, then we're going to go ahead and conclude the show for the day, because I wanted to bring individuals who are being impacted by this process. So with that being said, I received a call from one of my guests after I went on the air, but I'm not able to, in fact, stop what I'm doing to answer the phone, to take the phone, continue with going ahead with what we need to do. So I'm trying to look here at my screen and make sure that we are able to do what we need to do here. So with that being said, I am in the process right now of looking at how I can share the screen, but I don't have any people to share the screen with right now because nobody's called in or is trying to log in. Let me see what I'm dealing with right now here on the platform. So let me see what we can do here to see if we can get folks here inside the show, because I know they're going to call in so they couldn't get in. And we've been working tirelessly trying to get through the process of working with our listening audience and everybody here on the platform with Solar Now. So we're going to take a slight pause for the calls here on Solar Now and the future with its economic impact on Black America. And you're going to be listening to Desert Drive by Everett Allen, which is our new intro. Solar Now and the future with its economic impact on Black America. Hey, DC, you with me? Did you hear me, DC? Okay. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, back to the airways of Solar Now and the Future with its economic impact on Black America. I want to apologize to my guests. We've had some technical problems in here today. This is the first day I've tried to live stream this through our YouTube and Zoom channel, and we've had some technical difficulties here. Mr. Corbin, how you doing?
I'm doing fine, sir. How are you?
Thank you for coming on the airways of Solar Now and the Future with its economic impact on Black America. Well, TC, I was just explaining to my listening audience about the Catch-44 that D.C. residents find themselves in the District of Columbia, who are homeowners who have utilized the Solar for All program in the District of Columbia, and their meters have been deactivated for a number of years as it relates to the issue of getting PV system of the homeowners, and people cannot benefit from having the systems on their roofs. At the same time, they're receiving bills. You have a PV system on your roof. Your meter has been deactivated for a number of years, and yet the fees are higher than your electricity bill. Could you sort of weigh in on this? Because I just shared this with my listening audience, and I'm quite sure people don't believe what I'm saying.
Well, for me, I guess I first got my system put on my roof around 2019. And since then, I think the law stated that within 60 days or so, if I'm correct, Pepco had to come out and put a solar meter in your unit. For me, Pepco never showed up. They sent one representative out. But after that, I got no response from Pepco, and nobody else came out. And the effort has been not just with Pepco getting them. I went to the Public Service Commission, and I was handed down from one person to another, and nobody ever really responded to my request and my needs. Even with WDC Solar, I went through them asking them if they could help, and I really got no help from them. I was done the same way, handed from one person to the other with nothing ever taking place. It seems nobody's interested in helping me. It's been a long fight here. I have one meter in my utility room, and it's just a Pepco meter. There's no solar meter. Pepco has never come out to put a solar meter in. And everything's going on deaf ears for me. So it's been quite a fight for the last 4 years or so, trying to get somebody to come forward and help me. But I haven't been successful as of yet. So the issue is Pepco is not giving me credit for my solar unit, and they're taking all of my credits and my electricity and I'm paying a regular electric bill higher than I was before I had solar. So I don't know how to even where to go from here to try to get somebody to respond to my pleas.
Well, that's the reason why I wanted to come on this platform, Solar Now and the Future, with its economic impact on Black America. Now, last Thursday, the Public Service Commission had a town hall meeting, which I informed you about and several other people about, and I know that you were one of the ones who did come on that virtual meeting, and I was on that virtual meeting. And I know I put in the chat box and raised these issues about D.C. residents not being able to take advantage of the Solar for All program for fiscal year 2024 because Mayor Bowser had pulled the entire $20 million budget from DCSCU, which is the D.C. Sustainable Utility, which is contracted by the Department of Energy and Environment to pay the contractors to do the installs for the homeowners. Now, that is the program that you went through, and I think you mentioned WDC Solar, which was one of those companies which is a part of that program. And you indicated that you've gone to them and you're not getting a response from them. And I know for a fact that each company that has done installs in the district, they have access to that data on how much energy that your system is generating every day. And if there's any additional energy over and above your usage, that meter turns backwards, and they know exactly what your system is putting out. So with that being said, when we began to look at what's going on in the district, you being a senior, even though you suffer from many of the diseases that many of us suffer from at our age, called they grown and they ain't gone. We talking about grandkids and everybody else coming there, but there's nobody there but you and your wife. Other than that, you don't have a whole bunch of folks up there with no big, huge utility bill to pay for. So there should be substantial benefit and savings on your electricity bill having a solar 5K, I think that's a 5 kW system. You got about 20 panels on your roof, right?
Yes, sir.
So that's a 5 kW system. And this is what I've been explaining to our listening audience, that this is the type of thing that is going on right here in our nation's capital. And we have people and individuals such as yourself that have already, in fact, had a system on their roof. You 2019, I asked Mr. Frank Coles to call in, and he said he had some difficulty getting in, so I asked him to call in also, so I'm still waiting to see if Frank can get in. They went through the Solar for All program, and they were under the program that came through DC Sun, which we know today is Neighborhoods United. And in their contracts, and I know this because I recruited about 40 DC residents that signed up for that program myself, for this Solar for All program, because people didn't know about it. And I knew it was a great program, and it would be a great benefit because back at that time, the energy credits were trading for a little over around $215 at that time, but they weren't where they are today. And they took 2017, something happens in the rent sort of dropped. It took a substantial hit in the district, and they dropped around 117. And in fiscal year 2018, the stakeholders in the industry, and the stakeholders are going to be your installation firms and everybody else who stands to benefit from the increasing the renewable portfolio standard mark from 50% to 100%. So they went from 50% to 100% through the legislative body, which basically increased the value of those RECs because it's called demand and supply. And as I explained to our listening audience, the way that the legislation was written, and Mary Shea played a role in that with DOEE and those attorneys downtown working at DOEE, where DC residents, those energy credits that Pepco had to purchase from their customer base, whether they be the district government, federal government, commercial building and owners, or homeowners in the district. But Pepco can't buy what Pepco can't get. This was the statement that was said by Mrs. Fry, who serves as the lead general counsel for the People's Council under the Public Service Commission here in Washington, D.C. She stated that in her testimony in 2018 about the lack of systems and installs in the district. So the legislation put Pepco in a situation where there would be a shortfall. And in for fiscal year 2017, there was a $15 million shortfall. In that legislation, it allows Pepco to pass that. They had to write the check to the D.C. government. Then Pepco is able to pass those fines back onto D.C. ratepayers in the form of fees. And in 2018, that shot up from a shortfall from 15 million to 25 million. I know for a fact because Bethea King, who served as head of the Public Service Commission at that time, came on this platform, Solar Now and the Future, with its economic impact on Black America, and she talked about that with Mrs. Anna Schooling. And they felt that it was so unfair that the D.C. government had not put any money into the Solar for All program. Any substantial funding for DCSEU to help low and moderate income residents get PV systems on their roof. And I think they got about $10 million in their first appropriations. And it reached up to about $20 million by the time we look around 2020. Fast forward 2024, the budget still was $20 million. At the same time, D.C. residents are paying for the rate increases, energy rate increases. Pepco just applied for a $190 million rate increase. There has been pushback over the next 3 years. They want to increase the cost of electricity. Then through the Federal Trade Commission, there's a 12% transmission rate increase heading down the road for residential homeowners, business owners in the District of Columbia and people who reside in the PJM market area, which the district is a part of that, including Maryland, Pennsylvania, so it is not just D.C. So what I tried to share in the first portion of the show, I talked about a situation that the gentleman who is a reporter, Brady, for NPR News, did an excellent job talking about fraud in the solar industry and the issues that they have. But they were looking at what was going on with the improper sales pitches that's putting out and people being lied to when they were actually entering into the contract. This is a whole different ball game when we get to talking about the deactivation of the data sharing options on people's meters. That is the reason why I wanted Mr. Coles to call in, because their meter was actually functioning when they got the system originally installed in their home in 2018. And I would go over, we watched the game together. Frank pulled it up and showed me what his system was putting out, and he could see it. But his meter got cut off. Yours was never turned on. It was deactivated right here in the nation's capital. Now, as of March 4th of 2024-23, the 5-year time limit for the transferring of those energy credits was up. And they were supposed to be transferred over to people who had these systems installed on their roofs through the Solar for All program in the District of Columbia in 2018 if they went through Neighborhoods United. I know I recruited quite a few people, as I've indicated already, and they had in their contracts that those energy credits would transfer over to the homeowner after the 5th year. Well, the 5th year is out. They still have not received those credits. And it's we're going into October 2024. So, I titled this show, Looking at Fraud in the Solar Industry, I also subtitled it, Looking at Possible Fraud in the Solar Industry in the Nation's Capital. Listening to you, it's clear to me that somebody's benefiting off your back and the back of thousands of other D.C. residents who have installed PV systems on their roof here in the nation's capital. Well, if you could weigh in on what I just said, what's your reading of this?
Well, Ronald, well, just to add to it, I've recently in the last few days tried to reach out to D.C. For the WDC Solar. Evidently, they no longer exist. Their phones are not working. I'm not sure why or what the issue is, if it's new management or what, but contacting them is useless. At least through or if you Google them, and the information you get off of Google no longer is valid. It's just, and not just that. It's the Public Service Commission. They did absolutely nothing. The D.C. government, it seems nobody's interested, or everyone's afraid of Pepco. I can't figure out what the deal is, Mr. Bethea.
Well, Mr. Corbin, I think the only solution for D.C. residents is for them to take their issue directly to the new U.S. Attorney and the U.S. Attorney's Office in the District of Columbia. I don't see any law firm that's going to have the guts to go up against Exelon Corporation and Pepco, which is the subsidiary of them, just like the utility company here in Maryland is a subsidiary of Exelon. We're talking about some of the most powerful corporations in America. And I'm going to sort of look at how I can merge in, if possible, a YouTube video for the last 30-minute segment of this show that was done by a gentleman, and it's called, If You're Wondering Why Your Electricity Bill is So Damn High. I think we've hit some points of why that is. And if this is taking place here in Washington, D.C., in our nation's capital, you know what's going on around the country.
Well, it's not just Washington. It's Maryland.
I know.
It's everywhere.
I had Michael Murray on this show. He's indicated over 50 million U.S. residents who have installed solar systems on their roofs nationwide have had their meters deactivated. I know Senator Van Hollen has sent a letter, which I have here in my files on my computer, to Jennifer Grant's homes at the Department of Energy. I don't know what they've done. So whether it be about this issue, so whether it be on the city, county, state levels, it seems though when it comes up for the political apparatus that's supposed to operate in the benefit of the citizenry, and we right up on the elections right now. This topic ain't being talked about from this perspective. That is why I wanted to have you on today, and Mr. Coles on today, to talk about these issues that y'all experience personally in your lives. Because I know how hard you have struggled to maintain and keep your properties here in the District of Columbia. And you have a beautiful home, you and your wife, and you've done upgrades to the property, and you've done everything. But this kind of situation, I mean, whatever you get in the District of Columbia, we both know it ain't enough to live. And I know that. And the pressures that you and Mr. Coles have, because y'all are senior citizens just the same as I am, and it's something called fixed income, and that's real. So with that being said, if you got some other things you'd like to close with, I'm not going to hold you any longer, but I really appreciate you calling in from your taking time to call into the show today to let people know that, we're talking about things that are real. We're not talking about things that don't exist. It's a real situation, and people are suffering, and these giant corporations, they are making billions. They're not making millions. They're making billions off the back of ratepayers, and people can't catch a break.
Yes, it's quite a challenge, but I'm not giving up. And anything I learn new, I'll definitely inform you of it, Mr. Bethea, and you can share it with the rest of your audience.
Well, I appreciate that, and thank you for taking time from your busy schedule to join us here on the platform of Solar Now and the Future with its economic impact on Black America.
Thank you.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you just listening to Thomas Cameron, who we, as I said, I'm still a neophyte at this process with this Zoom and this live stream and trying to get everything in place and have everything running on time. So we're struggling with this. We're doing the best we can with it, ladies and gentlemen. But we're going to take a slight pause for the calls here on Solar Now and the Future with its economic impact on Black America. And we're going to be right back, and we're going to play a piece for you that I'm quite pleased with this new introductory song that we have, and we're going to be right back here on the platform. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, back to the airways of Solar Now and the Future with its economic impact on Black America. You were just listening to Desert Drive by Everett Alma, who is the musician that produced that piece. And as we try to improve this platform and step forward, ladies and gentlemen, we are streaming over the World Wide Web through the platform of Blog Talk Radio. We can be heard on iTunes, Facebook, Twitter, Link. Now we have YouTube and other platforms that we are bringing this show. Hopefully we'll be able to get some additional funding in, so we'll be able to get some folks that can help us navigate the issue with our callers and our guests coming to the show. This has been quite interesting for me to try and get everything done at the same time while I'm doing the show. So with that being said, we know that there are issues and things that we need to do and issues and things that we need to resolve, but like everything else, you do as much as you can the resources that you have. That is how I have learned as a business person to try to do as much as I can do myself, and then you will know that you've done the very, very best. After you've done the very, very best that you can with what you have to work with, then you don't worry about that. You have to keep it moving, because life is very, very challenging for everyone, and everybody gets challenges every day. We wake up, there's going to be something that will happen, and believe me, if it is to happen, it will happen. Now, as I indicated, this is a special show today, and it's a 2-hour show. So we're sort of trying to fill in the time frame with looking at a number of videos that we want to make sure we are able to bring to you. So what we're going to do, you're going to be able to hear the show that's done, and this gentleman did an excellent job. Why are your electric bills so high?
Everybody's favorite thing. Did I lock myself out of my own house? No, I didn't. Okay, what is this? Oh, look. It's another rate hike. Have you been getting these? The companies that we depend on to heat and power our homes have been trying to raise our bills more than ever before. But there's one company here in West Virginia that might be the worst example. First Energy, to those that know it, has become the poster child for scandal.
The largest bribery scheme the state has ever
here
seen.
Today to announce the filing of criminal charges. This is a humbling moment for our company.
So recently, when they put a request for it for a major rate hike, it set off a firestorm. I did a little research into the situation, and it wasn't long before I was reading about corruption and massive taxpayer bailouts. The investigation brought me deep into our public utility system, something that most of us never really have to think much about. It took me to protests, public hearings, the homes of people struggling to pay sky-high rates, and it completely changed how I think about a basic question. Why are energy bills so damn high?
Mary, if you have any thoughts about it. And
What's your thoughts, Mary?
My thoughts, it's outrageous. $70, $80 difference.
That's a lot in just 1 month.
It's really scary to think of what it'll be next month.
It will be. My wife and I are on a fixed income. We live on Social Security primarily. We know how to budget and we manage things and we can survive on that. But now it's going to push us to the edge.
Like most of the country, our net only has one electricity provider to choose from. It's called First Energy, and it's one of the largest investor-owned utilities in the U.S. When he looked into it, he discovered that beyond what he's already paying, First Energy is now requesting a huge rate increase of $207 million. For the average customer, that would mean paying over $200 more every year.
This is just ridiculous, and somebody needs to bring a stop to all this. And I don't think they even care, because all they have to do is request a rate increase, pass all their expenses on to someone else.
Right, because what are you going to do?
Exactly.
Yeah.
What can we do?
Al did what he could. He wrote a letter to the West Virginia Public Service Commission, a state agency that is supposed to regulate the utility.
In view of all that I have stated, and the recent well-known fraudulent actions of Montage's parent company, First Energy Corporation.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I was talking about the situation that happened in Ohio.
Speaker Householder, what do you have to say to Ohio? Are the allegations against you true?
In 2020, a federal investigation revealed that First Energy was at the center of one of the biggest political scandals in Ohio's history.
Make no mistake, these allegations are bribery, pure and simple.
First Energy spent millions lobbying for a bill that gave it $1.3 billion to bail out failing power plants. The bill also rolled back Ohio's energy efficiency and renewable energy standards.
There were these murky groups with names like Generation Now spending a lot of money on ads and these political campaigns.
Chinese government is quietly invading our American electric grid. You may be approached on the street or at your door to sign a petition to defund U.S. jobs and energy.
But it wasn't until a while later I was actually looking through some bankruptcy filings from the First Energy Solutions bankruptcy case and realized that they had included some payments to this Generation Now group. Suddenly there was a press conference.
We're here today to announce the arrest of Larry Householder, the Speaker of the House.
First Energy eventually admitted to paying $60 million in bribes, as well as paying off Ohio's top utilities regulator.
This is a humbling moment for our company. First Energy will pay a penalty of $230 million.
$230 million to settle federal charges against the company in connection to a sweeping bribery scheme.
First Energy's scandal in Ohio raised an obvious question. Had its customers been paying for the bribery? That question became even more critical last year when First Energy started asking for big rate increases. $207 million in West Virginia, $185 million in New Jersey, and $40 million in Maryland. In response, several states decided to audit First Energy's finances.
Pretty much every state First Energy does business in, investigations or audits or the company's own admissions have shown money that they paid to lobbyists who worked on these ratepayer bailout campaigns was charged to ratepayers and needs to be refunded.
But the scandal also highlighted the key role played by one agency in particular. It's a public service commission. In every state, there's a commission that's supposed to make sure the prices we pay for utilities are fair.
We are here this evening to listen to public comment in case number 23-0460.
Today, that commission in West Virginia is considering First Energy's requested rate hike. So we came to see how people are feeling about it.
So many of the folks I work with daily can no longer afford to pay their electric bills because their electric bills are now higher than their mortgages.
First Energy has proven recently to be a corrupt company, and the Public Service Commission breathed to their lobbying efforts by hoping people really stink.
Many people here have responded to sky-high rates by installing solar panels, reducing what they have to pay to First Energy.
I would just like to echo what everyone else has said, that I believe that these changes are unfair to anyone looking to go solar in the state in the future.
In its rate request, First Energy proposed that solar panel owners get paid less for the power they generate.
It's really a double whammy because rates are increasing, but the relief is being threatened.
So why is First Energy doing this? The truth is, they have a vested interest in generating power a different way. You may have heard of it. West Virginia is the energy state, coal, right? The weird thing is that over the last 15 years, the cost of electricity in West Virginia has gone up by 90%, more than almost any other state. Over the same period, coal has stopped being a cost-effective way of producing electricity. That's because it became cheaper to generate power from gas, wind, or solar. To save money, most utilities have made the switch, but First Energy doubled down. Today, the company still uses coal to generate nearly all of its electricity in West Virginia.
Renewables at this point are cheaper, cleaner, and the utilities, instead of looking forward and determining how they're going to transition, are making upgrades to power plants that by all accounts should be shuttered.
The job of utility regulators is to keep rates low, but instead of encouraging First Energy to transition to more affordable forms of energy, the West Virginia Commission has repeatedly done the opposite.
It was supposed to be a fairly routine meeting, dotting the I's, crossing the T's, and some previous legislation. But then came something very controversial.
While First Energy was pursuing this massive bribery for bailout scheme in Ohio, it was also pursuing any way possible to keep the Pleasants coal plant up and running in West Virginia.
By 2017, one of First Energy's biggest coal plants was no longer profitable to operate. So First Energy got creative. They found a way to shift the plant to another part of the business where ratepayers would have to bear the costs.
They would have been forcing ratepayers to bail out the shareholders, just pretty much the ultimate no-no. You can't take money from low-income ratepayers in West Virginia and send it to investors on Wall Street.
Everyone knew this maneuver would increase costs for the consumers, but the Public Service Commission still supported the plan. The scheme was so outrageous that it was immediately rejected by federal regulators. But that didn't stop First Energy and its allies, like West Virginia Governor Jim Justice.
Governor, we thank you so much for all you've done and all you continue to do.
They went to West Virginia's Governor Jim Justice and said, hey, you know what would really help? A big tax break for this power plant.
The big surprise was a last-minute bill submitted by Governor Justice that would give the controversial Pleasants Power Station $12 million tax break.
Nobody's going to go to bat for you more than I. Nobody believes in coal more than I. We'll sign these right now.
We're just so appreciative of Governor Justice taking a lead role in advancing legislation to save this plant.
The governor had found another way to make West Virginians split the bill for the failing coal plant. And Governor Justice, once a billionaire owner of a coal mining business himself, appointed all three members of today's State Utility Commission. The people now deciding whether First Energy gets its big rate hike.
I'm Charlotte Lane, Chairman of the Public Service Commission of West Virginia.
Its chair, Charlotte Lane, is a former First Energy lobbyist. Another commissioner, Bill Rainey, ran the West Virginia Coal Association for nearly 30 years.
The great thing about coal that people typically do not understand is that it's the basis of their electricity.
At the hearing, we were lucky enough to have a quick conversation with Todd Myers, a spokesman for First Energy. So we've been going around the state and talking to a lot of people who are your customers. And one of the main questions that has been on their mind over the last 15 years, West Virginians have seen retail prices on energy increase by 90% since 2005. Why are they experiencing that?
I can say that over time, we've made a lot of investments in West Virginia. You're investing in the infrastructure. You're investing in wires. You're investing in different storm processes, and there's a lot of different things as you know, prices go up. And also energy, not only in West Virginia, but in many places. The energy continues to, and the fuels continue to get more expensive.
How can customers of Mon Power, Atomic Edison, be sure that they are not paying for the political lobbying of the parent company, First Energy, with a lot of these rate increases? That's a concern on a lot of people's minds.
Yeah, I think there's been an audit that the commission has looked at. I don't know what the findings are there, but that's another question for him.
Talking to people about utility commissions has made me the most boring guy at the bar for the last month. But lack of public interest is exactly what's allowed these monopoly utilities to capture regulators and raise rates all over the country.
I'm a low guy, just like all of my neighbors and friends who are subjected to the same problems with this.
Right.
What do we do?
The companies that provide us with electricity, heat, water, we give them monopolies because they are supposed to serve us to provide reliable energy at an affordable rate. But somewhere along the line, that agreement broke down.
These people have so much power to just say, we want more money, we're going to raise the rate, and then it just happens.
Over the last month, I've seen a growing movement to restore that agreement.
It's West Virginians who are going to own the power plants, not Wall Street.
And a movement is probably what it'll take to hold companies like First Energy accountable.
If we have no one that's within power that's going to stop this kind of thing, we're done.
And you were just listening to Why Are My Electric Bills So Damn High? And this gentleman has done an excellent job with producing this John's done an excellent job in producing this, and it backs up and reinforces the conversation that we've had today. Because if you're in Maryland, you're under First Energy's area. You're part of the territory, and you're paying it. So this is not just a D.C. issue. It's not a Pennsylvania issue. This is a national issue with the utility companies. And like I said, if the U.S. attorney's offices around this country don't take these entities on, we don't have anybody. We got nothing coming. We don't have the resources or the money as working class folk to take on these giants. This is why we decided to launch our new podcast, radio, YouTube, TV network over the live stream, over YouTube, Zoom, and you're also listening to it over Blog Talk Radio. We may just, in the future, just be moving to YouTube, but we're going to make sure that we can reach the numbers that we need in order to generate the necessary income we need for the work that we're putting in, so that we'll be able to take this platform to the next level. Because as Africans and African Americans living in this country, we're not getting any great benefit from the Inflation Reduction Act, the IRA, as it relates to our companies getting their fair share of business. And it is criminal that $1.7 trillion have flown out of the 6 federal agencies, and less than 2% of that has gone to African and African American run businesses, nonprofits, churches, and entities in this energy sector. And we will be bringing stories, and we'll be bringing on folks over this platform in the near future that will be reinforcing what I am saying to you today over this show, Solar Now and the Future with its economic impact on Black America. And with that being said, we still have about 6 minutes left, so we were looking at possibly reinforcing that with looking at how we could bring something else to the table, because this was a 2-hour show, and we really could have done this show in about an hour, but we didn't. So what we've attempted to do is to keep the show moving and going, because we didn't know how this was going to play out today, trying to bring our first live stream to the airways. We're going to work on this process, and we promise that we'll try to get it right, but we need your support. And you can log on our website at positivechangepc.com. Hopefully that this show, this live stream will be there today. I thought I had launched the meeting. I was told by Mr. Cameron that he was waiting to get in, and I hadn't launched the meeting. But I'm up on the meeting is being live streamed. So that tells me that I am here, and it's saying that the meeting is in place, but I don't have access to be able to do everything and bring everybody in and share the screen and those things that I need to do, and we'll work on that, and we will get that corrected. And with that being said, this show is brought to you every week by the Positive Change Purchasing Corporate LLC, which serves as an economic blueprint for renewable energy companies, both large and small, along with increasing market share for African and African American owned renewable energy companies to address the high energy costs at our historically black colleges and universities, to utilize black-owned farmlands and HBCU campuses to develop capacity and initiatives for renewable energy projects to bring down the underemployment of young African and African American young men and women locally, nationally, throughout the diaspora. Also to educate the African and African American community about the economic impacts of climate change and the need for environmental education through Black Talk Radio platforms such as Solar Now and the Future, with its economic impact on Black America. And our prayers go out to all of those who were impacted by the storm that came through Florida, Georgia, my home state of South Carolina, and it hit in North Carolina, because folks have no idea about the devastation and the power of nature. And I grew up in the PD area, which is very, very close to the coast. Matter of fact, my hometown, Dillon, South Carolina, we were less than 70 miles from the Atlantic Ocean. And when those storms come through, you got to evacuate. And a lot of people didn't, because North Carolina is 500 miles away from the ocean front, and it's devastated. So when we began to look at the impact of these storms, and there are going to be more and more of these storms, and they're going to continue to increase in their severity, we know that this is real. We're not making this up. And we need to be on top of these issues around the environment. We need to be looking at the economics of this piece, and we need to be seeing how we can grow our African and African American firms, because one thing for sure, without the cobalt, without the lithium, and without the nickel, there is no green economy. You got to have those to move forward, whether it's building chips, panels, or whatever. And they got to go to the continent of Africa to get those resources. A large percentage of those raw material minerals come from the continent. There should be no way that we as African Americans have no more economic and growth for our companies, and you got to go to the motherland to get that. We can find a way to leverage what we have if we work together. With that being said, I want to thank you for joining me for another exciting edition of Solar Now and the Future, with its economic impact on Black America. And as we say every week, we don't want you to meet us here. We want you to beat us back here. As we close another exciting edition of Solar Now and the Future, with its economic impact. And we're going to close out with our new intro song, Desert Drive by Everett Allen. With that, until next week, we say go in peace as we close another exciting edition of Solar Now and the Future,